Welcome. My name is ASMR Jeremiah. What's your name? Awesome. Great to meet you. So, how are you doing today? Okay. Okay. And have you ever done therapy before? And how long ago was that? Okay. Great. Well, our first session for today, this is just going to be an assessment. I'm gonna ask you some questions, and this is a safe space. You can tell me what you want, and based on the assessment, we'll put together a treatment plan for you, and hopefully things will start feeling a lot better soon. Yeah. So, what brought you in today? Anxiety. Yeah. That. That's a big one. Yeah. There's some depression as well. Yep. Yep. And when did you first start noticing any building anxiety? That that's the case for many of my clients. You know, the first thing that's important to know is that you're not alone. Many, many people are experiencing the exact same thing. Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you a few more questions. Again, this is an assessment. Any notes that I'm taking as your therapist, these are completely confidential. I can't share them with anybody. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you. All right. So I wanted to ask you regarding your anxiety and depression. Is there anything that you found for you that alleviates those symptoms? Very good. Oh, those are great. So, tell me about your relationship with your father. Okay. And your mother? Okay. Yeah, that's pretty typical. Uh-huh. And do you have any siblings, brothers, sisters? And do any of them have some of the same symptoms? Are they also experiencing some of the anxiety and depression that you are? Yeah. And do you have a partner? Okay. Describe them for me. What are they like? Okay. Okay. Well, what I'm hearing is a very common, and I mean that in the best way. It's a very normal emotion to experience and feel. Yeah, in my practice, we started seeing a pretty big spike around 2012. Yeah, yeah, it definitely coincided with the big rise of Instagram and Facebook and things like that. Yeah. Is that when you first started really noticing your anxiety as well? Yeah. And about how much time do you think you're spending on your phone per day, on social media per day? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Yeah. With your screen report. Mm-hmm. But again, it's very common. A lot of people have 4+ hours of screen time on their phone. Yeah. Do I think there's a correlation? There's a lot of evidence to suggest it. Well, let me ask you, do you think you spend too much time on your phone per day? Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you could change something about that, what do you think you would do? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, a lot of the research that I've been involved with, and the papers that I've read, show that, you know, the anxiety and depression started really going up. And this is not just here in the United States, this is around the world. This is not a phenomena unique even to the West. We're seeing the same things in China and India. Yeah. Yeah. And what we noticed is a pretty large spike and an increase in cases. Like I said, starting around 2012 was when we got the big uptick. Hmm. Well, it seems to maybe have affected women a little more than men. There are different theories as to why. Can I ask you, how old were you when you created your first social media account? 14, yeah. Hmm. And what was your experience like when you first created your first Facebook page? What was that like in the beginning? Sure. Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, you know, when people when when the explosion of Instagram took off and things like that, we noticed it affected young ladies more. Um, One theory is that boys are using their phones more for games and things like that, whereas young ladies were, for lack of a better word, comparing themselves more on different social media platforms, right? Yeah, we all like those likes. Yeah, yeah, it's a dopamine hit. When we check our phone and we see that people like the posts that we put out. But yeah, yeah, it's become an addiction for a lot of people. Yeah, some research has been come out recently. How to look at social media. Should it be viewed almost like a substance, like alcohol or tobacco, which we don't allow children to consume for obvious reasons. But there's mounting evidence to suggest that treating social media the same way as a controlled substance for our children could possibly make a big impact. Mm-hmm. Well, the algorithms, it's hard to say if social media is specifically to blame, but it's certainly the algorithms feed you to want to do more, right? If you're posting on Instagram, you get boosted up if you're posting regularly, right? Yeah, right? Building your brand. Hmm? Let me ask you, have you ever taken down a post that didn't get enough likes? Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's very common. But what this algorithm is doing is it's feeding that addiction, right? If you make a negative comment or something controversial, it gets boosted to the top because it creates interaction, right? Yeah. People disagreeing, fighting online. Yeah, I see that on Facebook a lot. Twitter, of course. Hmm. Right, and the algorithm rewards you for engaging, right? And the more you engage, the more dopamine hits we get, and hence it all rises. Hmm. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that's the same. That's why a lot of, I guess influencers, you could call them, people that post to YouTube all the time, a lot of times they have to take a break and just unplug from it because it gets overwhelming. Trying to keep up, right? How am I going to keep up? Yeah, yeah. So, what would you like to get out of this? Mm-hmm. More connection. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you feel anxiety leaving your house? Yeah. Do you feel anxiety when you post to social media? Mm, yeah, right. But if it gets some likes, then it's okay, right? Yeah, trolling. Trolling is a big thing. I don't know. I, why do people do it? That's a mystery. I yeah, I assume some think it's funny, or they just they themselves just want to be heard, even if being heard is negative. For some, just being heard and acknowledged makes them feel like they have a voice, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, the more we've gotten attached to digital relationships in a way, or not even relationships, that if somebody makes a comment on a tweet or one of your photographs, you have no idea who they are. You know? It could be some 11-year-old kid, right? Who, if you know, if a 10-year-old comes up to you and says, "Ooh, I don't like that shirt," it's not going to be devastating, right? Because they're 10. Or even if a stranger, if you had no relation to that person, didn't know that person, them saying something rude probably wouldn't affect you as much, right? But it happens online. We tend to give those voices way more credit than we would in real life. We assign value to their voice as if, they were an authority, or as if they were somebody you were trying to impress, or mm-hmm. Do you have any ideas of why you get the depression? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Depression is a tough one, and it's brutal. It's devastating. And it's hard to know what brings it on. You know, one day you're doing great and kind of coming up roses. Yeah. And then for some reason, the next day or week can just go spiraling down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, you're not alone. Many, many, many people are going through this exact same thing. Yeah. And it's okay. Yeah. You're going to be okay. So, what I'm hearing is you've been experiencing higher levels of anxiety and depression, especially lately. Certainly, the circumstances of the globe right now, I mean, it's unprecedented, right? This is a global pandemic. Never before in the history of the world has the global economy actually shut down. It's new. Very much like social media. Keep in mind, it's brand new. The first iPhone came out in 2007. That was really, really recent. And yeah, we started seeing these trends of higher levels of anxiety in kids and teenagers really starting around 2012. I think as phones became more accessible and cheaper, and more kids had access to smartphones. Yeah, we've seen this. Yeah, in particular, the suicide rate for teenage girls basically doubled after 2012. It went up some for men as well. It didn't go down, but women have definitely been hit the hardest with this. Yep. Mm-hmm. Should you throw away your phone? No. I don't. Maybe. Um, I I hear about there are people who have completely, they've gone back to the old flip phones, and they just don't do it. I don't. That's a little extreme. Of obviously our phones have value outside of social media. Um, sure. What would I prescribe? Well, we're not there yet, right? Like I said, this is an assessment. I wanted to hear where you're coming from, what you're going through. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Okay. Well, let's run some little tests. And when I see you next time, let me know how it goes. Yeah. So there's a couple things I'd like you to try. Uh, what do you think I'm going to say? Limit phone time. Exactly. I'm not saying don't check your Instagram or your Twitter or your Facebook. I'm not saying. What if you think you could limit your phone time or your screen time to, take baby steps? Let's say 2 hours a day, right? Basically cutting it in half. A little more. Too much? Can you try? Mm-hmm. And how much exercise are you getting? Okay. Well, one of the big things, again, there's a lot of, it's not confirmed, there's a lot of correlation around health and wellness and vitamin D. Yeah, the sun, exactly. Vitamin D is a funny thing because it's not just a vitamin, it actually, your body processes it and treats it like a hormone. And about 70% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. Yeah, yeah, it's a big problem. And of course, during all this, what are they saying to do? Go inside, stay in, shelter in place, right? But it's so important that if you can, and I'm not saying don't break any laws, but if you can, go for a walk outside. It's important to feel the sun on your face and on your skin. Let your body absorb that vitamin D. It's very important. Same with the exercise. Sure, you can do it with headphones and listen to music if you want, or a podcast. I also recommend strongly that during part of your walk, no external sounds that contributing. Take that walk, take the headphones off, and just be with your thoughts. Yeah, no judgment. Whatever the thought is, whatever you're experiencing, is totally normal. But it is very important that you give yourself time every day of no, I was going to say bombardment, but it's too strong. Just no incoming data. Yeah. At least 30 minutes. An hour would be better. Yeah. Yeah. And how's your sleep schedule? Right. Yeah. These tend to compound on each other. The lack of sleep causes anxiety, causes stress, leads to depression, leads to more lack of sleep. And back on our hamster wheel we go. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, you don't think you get 8 hours of sleep? Yeah. Do you have a regular sleep schedule? Are you trying to go to bed and waking up at the same time every day? Even on the weekends? Yeah. It's very important that we try to get that 8 hours of sleep. Yeah. Well, it does many things. It's going to help boost our immune system. It's going to increase our mood. And it sounds counterintuitive, but it will probably increase your productivity. You're much better, much more likely to be productive if you can do 1 hour of good focused work than 3 hours of tired, distracted. Yeah. Okay. All right, so what are we going to do? Try to limit that screen time to no more than 2 hours per day. Daily walks. Good. Yep, daily walks. Feeling the sun on our face. Yep, it's very important. Yep. Yep, a half hour of non a half hour of non-bombardment. We'll just call it that. Yeah, where you're just with your own thoughts. Just being with your own thoughts. Meditation, well, in a way that's a meditation. I highly recommend meditation, of course. Yeah. Even, again, even 10 minutes, even 5 minutes of just quieting the mind, focusing on the breath can be really very refreshing. Yeah, even 10 minutes or 5 minutes of that quiet alone time where you're focusing on the breath. Yeah, it can be very refreshing and have a huge impact. And the last thing, I wanted to ask you about your diet. Okay? Are you getting vegetables every day? Fresh fruits? Not so much, right? Yeah, especially during this whole quarantine. It's been tough. Yeah. No, a lot of people have resorted to, more processed food because it's easier to store, of course. But yeah, getting those fresh fruits, those fresh vegetables every day is very important. Yeah, even cashews, some nuts are great. Cashews are kind of nature's natural antidepressant in a fun way. Yeah, I know, cashews. Not too many. You don't want to go nuts. Oop, that was a bad pun. A pun not intended, but certainly. Okay. Well, I think this is a start. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you again next week and hearing if you've had any breakthroughs, any breakdowns. Yep. And we'll just go from there. All right, well, thank you so much for coming in. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah. We'll go ahead and we'll schedule another appointment for next week. Yeah? Great. And when works for you? Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you again so much for coming in. It's wonderful to meet you. Yep. And I'm looking forward to hearing how this goes, how this next week goes for you. Yep. And on your way out, if you could do me a huge favor. If you could tap the like button and the subscribe button, that makes a huge impact for us. Yeah. Yeah, it makes a big, big difference. So thank you, and we'll see you next week. Take care.